Hey friends, Snoopy here. Today we're looking at the warrior, who is the sixth leader in the base game of Arcs. Warrior has two traits. The first trait is tactical. When you copy or pivot to battle, you may move before or after you battle. You may do this if you spin a weapon to let you battle. Violent. When you're scoring empath, gain no power for second place, and gain power for second place if you get first place. Don't get bonus city power for empath. You start with two resources, a weapons and then a material resource. And then for setup, we have the standard setup. So in A, we have a city and 3 ships. B, we have a starport and 3 ships. And then C has 2 ships. So what can we say about warrior? Well, this is one of the leaders that gives you an extra action when you copy or pivot. And like fuel drinkers and mystic, it's an extra action with only one type of action. So it's not with the suit. It's just battle for warrior, unlike tax for fuel drinkers and mystic. And this lets you move. So you can move before or after you battle. So I can pivot with an aggression card. And so I have one battle action with that pivot. But now it gives me the flexibility to move beforehand. So let's say I'm in a starport. I can now catapult move and go where I need to go and then battle there. Or if I'm in a gate, I can now move from the gate to whichever planet I need to get to and then battle there. Similarly, let's say I am in a situation where I just want to attack and leave. So this is what some word games called strafing. So you attack and retreat. And in Arcs, you can do that, but your actions are so limited, it's very hard to do a tactical retreat most of the time. Usually you just have to fight your way out. But with Warrior, you can do the strafe strat where you can attack and move out. Or you can use a fuel to move in, attack, use your tactical ability, move out. So Warrior it can be very useful, but he is limited to battling. And so you have to find ways to get weapons, find ways to get more aggression actions by copying instead of surpassing, but find ways to get the most out of Warrior through battling. And this is going to look like skirmish dice to soften an enemy up, and then going for a raid or assault, or just going aggressive and just using assault and raid dice. The violent trait can be pretty harsh for Warrior, but many times players will not declare empath because empath is looking at psionic resources and psionic guild cards. And there are many setups where there's only 1 or 2 psionic planets, and those building slots may be filled with starports anyway. And so the psionic resource may not be easily accessible, and those psionic guild cards may not show up in the court, or if they do, they're discarded for their effects instead. So I have some lore cards here. We only have one from the Leaders and Lore expansion pack, Predictive Sensors. Let's start with Secret Torpedoes. When attacking in battle, after rolling dice, you may reroll up to 1 assault dice for each fresh, loyal attacking ship. Like we said with the Rebel, if you're going for an aggressive strategy, being able to reroll just 1 or 2 assault dice is very crucial. And so just having that ability of turning an intercept into just a damage and a self-hit, or a blank even, or turning 2 blanks into a self-hit and a 2 damage or 1 damage. That can be the game changer, and that's what can lead you to decimating someone else's fleet or winning Warlord. Secret Torpedoes is for you when you have an aggressive strategy in mind and a leader that helps you do that, like the Warrior. Predictive Sensors. When defending in battle before the attacker collects dice, you may move any number of fresh ships from the systems adjacent to the battle system into it. This isn't a defensive card, but think of it as a way to deter your opponents. As you're aggressively attacking, they may choose to attack you back. And so leaving behind a ship or 2, and so if people try to pick them off, you may easily consolidate your fleet again, and that way you can pivot very quickly, because whenever you battle, you can move your ships. So think of this as a way that you can leave a ship in a gate or leave a ship in a planet to start building another starport or a city. But the second someone attacks you, your whole fleet coalesces together. And with warrior, that's particularly useful so that you can either attack and then move somewhere else, or move somewhere you need to go and then attack. Particularly if they're attacking you where you have a starport. Single signal breaker. When attacking in battle, if all attacking ships are fresh at the start of battle, you ignore one intercept you roll. Um, this lore card is not the best. The condition of having all your attacking ships fresh can be tough at times, and people can go in and fight you to stop this. But if this condition is met, and because of the warrior's ability where you can move ships first, so you're moving only your fresh ships and then fighting, this can be very, very strong, particularly when you're raiding. And so you can go in with just 3 ships and go in and have a great raid, even though you rolled 1 intercept, because this lets you bypass that. Or you can go in with a big assault raid, and you may most likely will roll 1 intercept hit if you roll 6 assault dice. Well, if you just rolled 1, you can ignore it. So that's something to think about with signal breaker, is that normally this is not a great lore because you need this condition of having just fresh ships at the start of the battle. But with warrior, because you can move beforehand, you get to select which ships are moving, and so you can only move your fresh ships and basically just activate signal breaker that way. The next lore we're going to look at is repair drones. After you battle as the attacker, repair 1 loyal attacking ship. This is what I would consider a bread and butter, simple, no thrills lore card. But it goes great with an aggressive strategy. And so this is another way to get a free action whenever you battle. So now with warrior, if you have repair drones, not only are you getting a free action either before the battle or after, you're going to get another action just with a repair. Finally, sprinter drives. When you move fresh oil ships, you may move them, any of them, 1 more time. Damaged ships move with them once, but won't move 1 more time, and you do this after all catapult moves. Sprinter drives with warrior is honestly really, really crazy and strong. So being able to move past gates that your opponents control, being able to move through multiple systems, is just very, very strong. And since you're getting a free move when you battle, no enemy is safe from you. You can really police control the whole board with just a big fleet and 1 starport, basically. So this is how I would think of sprinter drives. Is this basically shrinks the map for you and letting you get to where you need to go when you have your crucial battles. Here we're just going to look at 3 guild cards for warrior. When you battle in a gate, you may collect 2 more dice. And then in prelude, you may discard this to place 1 ship in each gate unless out of play. Gatekeepers with warrior. Controlling the gates is important in general, but with warrior, because of your movement and wanting to catapult, having gatekeepers where you can move into a gate and blow up someone else's fleet, and the threat of that is very, very strong. Being able to just discard this to get 5 ships or 4 ships out onto the map, and then you can consolidate them, especially if you have predictive sensors. This is just a really strong card in general, but I think with aggressive leaders like Rebel, and then now with Warrior, Gatekeepers is just something you're always going to be looking for to help you with that. Loyal Marines, if you provoke outrage, you keep this card. You may spend any resources as weapons. You ignore outrage when spending weapons for their prelude action. And then in your prelude, you may discard this to place 3 ships in a system you control. With any aggressive leader, like with the Warrior, we want to have battle actions. And the only way we can for sure do that is through weapon resources. And so Loyal Marines just make sure all our resources can, when needed, function like a weapon. And that's what really we just need to have. And so if we can't tax a weapon city, then this is the next best thing. We can tax any other city, and then now those resources can count as a weapons. And finally, skirmishers. After you roll in battle, you may re-roll a number of skirmish dice up to your total weapon icons from resources and cards. And then similarly, you can discard this in your prelude to place 3 ships in a system you control. Um, we are limited sometimes with our hands when we have a hand of just no aggression cards or just one aggression card. Um, but when we think about it, the warrior is going to be copying and pivoting anyway. And so if we're copying most of our aggression actions, it can be tempting to not want to use skirmish dice. And the reason is because we may only have one fight and then we're going to move out of there. And so skirmishers lets us kind of take a second chance. If we don't like the dice we roll, we can re-roll the one or two misses, maybe three misses, and kind of see what we can do before we get out of there. Because like we mentioned with the strafe attack where we go in, attack, and leave, it can be tough to just want to use skirmish dice, even though that may make the most sense, just because there's a high chance we're going to roll mostly blanks. And so skirmishers mitigates that quite a bit for us. So that's what we have for the warrior. I do have the warrior higher than the rebel. I don't think the warrior is as hamstrung by the negative ability, but it can be a real liability. If you're playing as the warrior and you're in a big lead, the table can decide, let's just declare empath. And if empath is declared once or twice, even three times, you can find yourself in a tricky situation where even if you do win, you're only going to get second. And if you tie, you're going to get no points, and the other person would get second place points. And so that's something to keep in mind with Warrior, that the table can police you just by declaring empath, and it's going to give you a hard time of jumping into a big lead. At the same time, I do think the Warrior is strong and has a lot of things going for it. And just having the ability to take an extra action when you copy or pivot, which normally gives you just one action, you get to do two actions. That's just always strong and useful. And so for that reason, I have the Warrior in the B tier. And I think Warrior is another good leader that you could give to a newer player, and they would do okay. I think the standard setup, the resources are good. The downside could be tough for a newer player, but I think they could understand it. And then the ability of just being able to move before or after may make some time to master, but to just understand it, I think is pretty simple. So next up, I would have Warrior as a good beginning level newer player leader to give. But in a competitive context, I do think there are a lot of other leaders that are just stronger than Warrior and just outclass Warrior. That's all I have for you guys. Hope you enjoy. Thanks.